The nation remains in shock after a deadly car ramming, spurring the government to rethink licensing rules for the elderly. Taiwan has shut down its last nuclear plant, but the legislature has passed a bill that could let the public vote on restarting it. As Israel pushes forward with its offensive in Gaza, the UK and EU are distancing themselves from the country.
I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement.
Plus, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang says US export controls on AI chips have cost the company billions of dollars. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Reece. Taiwan's Transportation Ministry says its plans to tighten the rules for older drivers who want to renew their license. The move comes just days after a fatal car ramming in New Taipei involving a 78-year-old driver. 3 people were killed in the crash outside a school, including 2 young girls. John Van Trieste reports.
Mourners gather at the site of a car ramming in New Taipei that killed 3 people and left 12 injured on Monday. Though police have ruled out drunk driving, the driver has been unconscious since the crash, so it's unclear why he sped through a restricted zone and rammed into a busy intersection. Whatever happened, much discussion of the crash has focused on the fact that the driver was 78 years old and had just renewed his license without problems in February, despite having hit at least one other pedestrian in the past. Among those who've weighed in is New Taipei's mayor.
高龄者在整个测验未来在训练的过程当中，我们要好好的重新检讨制度。
Though drivers in the 18 to 24-year-old age bracket cause the most accidents in Taiwan, the number of those involving senior citizens has risen in recent years. In the days since the crash, attention has turned to how other countries with aging populations handle older drivers, and whether Taiwan should learn from them. On Tuesday, the Transportation Ministry announced stricter rules for drivers over 70 that it's been working on for several months. The full details are yet to come, but as soon as next year, the age at which older drivers must renew their licenses will go from 75 down to 70. To get a new license, senior citizens will need to pass new cognitive and agility tests. And those with a record of breaking traffic rules or causing accidents will have to do additional practical training. But there will also be an incentive for drivers 70 and up who hand over their licenses for good, a monthly commuter pass. The ministry says these rules are meant to help senior citizens, not create a stigma.
其实每一个人都会老，那每一个人都有行的需求，所以未来我们对于高龄者，我们会用协助的方式，让高龄者更安全的来驾驶。
But there are concerns, especially for people who live in rural areas where public transportation is sparse or far away.
第一个可能适合的运具不足，那再来就是一个涵盖率不够，还有就是你的交通时间过长，导致很多长辈还会希望自己来做这样的一个自主的一个交通的一个行为，所以会自己开车。
高龄换照不打假球，
高龄换照不打假球，
建立全面换照制度，
建立全面换照制度。
And outside the cabinet building, a league of NGOs and smaller political parties is banding together to voice their own critiques of the new policies. None of these parties have sitting lawmakers right now, but they hope their demands will be heard. One is better traffic safety features around schools. Monday's crash happened near a school, and many of the killed and injured were students. But there's more.
重要的不只是年龄而已，还有包括风险的评估。另外呢，建立累犯驾驶的强制教育跟吊照制度，不要让那些无视交通规则的驾驶再继续的逍遥法外。
And there were criticisms of recent government policy changes too. Changes, they say, make it so traffic rules often go unenforced.
现在只有警察在现场立刻马上发现的违规，才会被记点处罚。那这样子是不是我们警察人力就已经很不足了？你又不开放民众检举，那该怎么办呢？
Though some, including a former colleague of the driver behind Monday's crash, believe this was a case of road rage, the incident has highlighted once again that Taiwan's population is only getting older, and that older people's mobility will be a big challenge for the government. Devin Tsai and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan and China are telling each other to face the facts about Taiwan's sovereignty, though they disagree on what those facts are.
也要务实面对这个台湾人民对于自由民主 生活方式的坚持，也要务实面对两岸互不隶属的客观事实与台海现状。希望两岸能够对等尊严，能够健康有序的交流，还有对话。
The comments come after China's Taiwan Affairs Office released a statement saying dialogue can only happen under the basis of one China, repeating the threat that both sides of the Taiwan Strait will eventually and inevitably be unified. That statement was in response to an offer President Lai Ching-te made of dialogue on equal footing as he marked his first year in office on Tuesday. Officials in Taiwan remain on high alert for any military response from China in the coming days. Taiwan's legislature has passed a bill to call a public referendum on restarting the Maanshan nuclear power plant. It's just one of 4 main referendum proposals that could be voted on in August. Each one touches upon issues that deeply divide the ruling and opposition parties. Leslie Liao reports.
The death penalty, nuclear power, martial law, and absentee voting. These are 4 issues that Taiwan's opposition parties, the Kuomintang and the Taiwan People's Party, which together hold the legislature, want to put to a public vote. On Tuesday night, they pushed through a referendum proposal on restarting the Maanshan nuclear power plant, only days after the plant was shut down, marking the official end of nuclear power in Taiwan. That's the second referendum proposal to clear the chamber in a week. With a looming deadline, more proposals could be passed in the coming days. So, let's take inventory of what's on the docket. The first referendum, put forth by the main opposition party, concerns the death penalty, which the KMT supports. It would ask voters, do you agree that a unanimous decision should not be required to hand down a death sentence in criminal trials? The second referendum, which comes from the TPP and passed on Tuesday, would ask voters, do you agree that Taiwan's third Maanshan nuclear power plant should be reactivated if it gets an approval from the plant's operators and passes a safety check? Both of these have cleared the legislature and will be reviewed by the Central Election Commission. The 2 other referendum proposals pending in the legislature concern the use of martial law and absentee voting. All 4 are issues that divide the ruling Democratic Progressive Party and the opposition.
前台湾人因为核电停掉之后，都烧的煤炭跟天然气，每个人污染都增加了。民进党不要不顾人民的死活，
怎么能够用所谓公投来让它经过安全评估之后，还可以让它恢复运转？ 这个没有办法，有人可以接受。
Though the opposition can't impose its policies on the ruling party, with its majority in the legislature, the referendums are a way to force the DPP's hand. Referendums in Taiwan are legally binding to a degree, and if they pass a vote, the government must respond to it. Under the current law, referendum votes can only happen once every 2 years, and they must be held on the 4th Saturday in August, which lands on August 23rd this year. However, the Central Election Commission must approve the referendum questions 90 days before the scheduled voting date, which is May 24th at the latest. And that could take a while because the commission needs to evaluate the legal implications of each referendum question. TaiwanPlus reached out to the CEC to ask how long the review process might take, and they simply said that they'll do everything according to the law. Joseph Wu, John Su, and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
International pressure is mounting on Israel to end its expanded military offensive on Gaza. The UK and European Union have announced measures distancing themselves from the country after Britain, France and Canada released a joint statement condemning the, quote, wholly disproportionate escalation. Rosie Greninger has this story.
In droves, Palestinians in Khan Yunis heed a warning from the Israeli army to flee their homes. This as Israel expands its ground offensive into the Gaza Strip in pursuit of Hamas. The UK is calling it a dark new phase in the war and has taken action against Israel.
I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement. we will be reviewing cooperation with them under the 2030 bilateral roadmap. The Netanyahu's government's actions have made this necessary.
The European Union has also announced it will review its relationship with Israel, calling the situation in Gaza, quote, catastrophic. This, a day after the UK, France and Canada threatened to take concrete actions against Israel if the country does not halt its fresh offensive and continues to block aid from entering Gaza. The joint statement was signed by leaders Mark Carney, Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer.
As set out in my statement with President Macron and Prime Minister Carney last night, and I want to put on record today that we're horrified by the escalation from Israel. We repeat our demand for a ceasefire as the only way to free the hostages. We repeat our opposition to settlements in the West Bank. And we repeat our demand to massively scale up humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
Israel has now eased its complete blockade of the territory after it halted the flow of humanitarian aid for 11 weeks. The United Nations says a handful of trucks have so far been let into the Strip, but far more supplies are needed as humanitarian groups warn of a looming famine in the enclave of 2.3 million people. There has been an extreme shortage of essential goods in Gaza since the resurgence of the war, including food, water and medical supplies.
حياة صعبة بشكل يعني بنسمع عن اللي بيجي تسع سيارات اللي بقول لك 12 سيارة وكله كذب يعني مش مبين علينا أي شيء بمرض علينا والله ما في حالتنا حاجة.
Despite the desperate situation in Gaza, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has condemned the leaders of France, Britain and Canada, suggesting in a social media post that they are offering a huge prize to Hamas and continued to press for total victory in Gaza. The country's intensified air and ground attacks on the enclave, killing more than 460 people in the past week, according to Palestinian health authorities. Nearly 53,000 people have been killed in Gaza in the past year and a half of war. And Israel is ignoring calls to pull back on its offensive.
אנחנו פועלים לפי תוכנית סדורה ועוברים לשלב הבא. חמאס ישלם את מחיר סרבנותו. הוא יתקל בעוצמת אש. נרחיב את התמרון, נכבוש שטחים נוספים, נתאר ונשמיד את תשתיות הטרור עד להכרעתו.
For those struggling to survive in what's left of war-torn Gaza, this means more displacement and destruction lie ahead, as international pressure fails to make any breakthrough in the escalating conflict. James Lin and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says his country will not participate in an agreement among World Health Organization member countries to improve the response to future pandemics.
The WHO has not even come to terms with its failures during COVID, let alone made significant reforms. Instead, it has doubled down with the pandemic agreement, which will lock in all of the dysfunctions of the WHO pandemic response. Well, we're not going to participate in that.
Kennedy made the comments in a video addressed to the World Health Assembly, the WHO's top decision-making body. He also called on other countries to follow the US's example in leaving the WHO, saying that China and international power politics hold too much sway over its operations. This is the first time the US, historically the organization's top funder, was absent from the annual meeting. US President Donald Trump started the 12-month withdrawal process earlier this year. Taiwan's former Vice President Chen Chien-jen says this could impact Taipei's desire to be included in the organization.
如果美国退出以后，这整个世界卫生组织已经不再是一个可信赖的，而且呢受尊重的组织的话，那台湾可能也就需要再透过其他的管道来推动全球卫生的工作。
Proposals by Taiwan's allies to allow the country to attend this year's assembly were rejected. It has been barred since 1972, except for 7 years from 2009 to 2016, when it was given observer status. At a packed closed-door press conference in Taipei, geopolitics took center stage as NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang addressed the media alongside the Computex trade show. Cameras were not allowed, but our reporter Chris Gorin was there and has the inside scoop.
There's one undeniable star at this year's Computex, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, and he had a lot to say about China and U.S. export controls at a Q&A on the sidelines of the show here in Taipei. Now, while audio and video recording was not allowed inside during the press conference, he did address reporters outside the venue, and he was asked about his opinion on U.S. tariffs.
What's your opinion?
I don't have an opinion on that. I think there's a resetting of the trade around the world, and whenever it settles down, the industry will readjust, and so I have every confidence things will work out.
He did have a lot of opinions about U.S. export controls and AI rules, however. On AI rules limiting the export of U.S. chips to many countries that were recently paused by U.S. President Donald Trump, he was very definitive. He says the policy was wrong. He says AI's spread around the world should be maximized, not minimized. And he thanked the U.S. president for pausing the rules, saying that Trump knows the race is on and that the U.S. should win it. On export controls, which Trump has continued to enforce, he was also critical, but did not criticize the president directly. He says the rules caused NVIDIA to lose billions of US dollars, and he was very adamant that China was an important market. He says 50% of AI researchers come from China, and that the AI market is worth $50 billion, and it would be a shame to lose those dollars to companies like Huawei, which he called one of the most formidable in the world. And when asked about a previously unconfirmed Shanghai R&D center, he downplayed it, saying that they are just leasing a bigger building there. And that's similar to what he had to say about NVIDIA's newly announced expanded Taipei office known as Constellation. When asked if the new office sent a message to the world about Taiwan, he joked that he just needed more chairs. But he did say that stability in the region was important. Huang also said the AI industry needs government support to build more energy infrastructure of all kinds, including nuclear. He did not name Taiwan specifically, but nuclear power is highly divisive here, with the country's last reactor being decommissioned just last week. So as NVIDIA continues to promote the expansion of AI infrastructure across the world, it's clear that Mr. Huang wants to leave everywhere open for business. John Su, Klein Wang, and Chris Gorin in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan and India are strengthening their business ties, with India sending its largest ever state-level delegation to an investment forum in Taipei. Government officials from 4 Indian states spoke at the event, highlighting opportunities for Taiwanese companies to invest in India. In recent years, major Taiwanese firms like Foxconn and Pegatron have expanded their manufacturing bases there. Now, Indian officials are hoping to bring in even more Taiwanese investment.
We have a lot of Japanese companies, a lot of Korean companies already operating, few Taiwanese companies, but I think that is going to change. This forum today and in subsequent engagement with the Taiwanese companies, we really want to make it really worthwhile and really take this to the next level of investment for all.
Trade between Taiwan and India is on the rise, growing from just over $8 billion in 2023 to more than $10.5 billion in 2024. Coming up after the break, young Chinese people escape from daily duties, finding solace in retirement homes.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
Wow, this is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. As China ramps up its military activities around Taiwan, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has told a Senate hearing that deterrence and alliances remain key to Taiwan's security.
And I think deterrence obviously begins with Taiwan's own self-defense capabilities. And the harder they are to take militarily, the more time I think they buy for themselves in that regard. I think it continues by having a credible regional deterrent, not just the United States, but Japan and other allied countries around the world.
Rubio's comments come as Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te marked his first year in office, prompting China to reiterate that unification across the Taiwan Strait is inevitable. Beijing performed landing drills on China's Fujian coast on the day of the anniversary. Taipei is still on high alert for any larger response. The US's top diplomat says regional security in the Indo-Pacific hinges on stability worldwide.
We have to understand that anytime there's a conflict in the Middle East or a conflict in Europe or what have you, that we have to dedicate resources and time to that. That's time and resources that we're not dedicating to the Indo-Pacific.
During the Senate hearing, Rubio stressed that the top priority now is ending the war in Ukraine, so that more resources can be used to resolve long-term issues in the Indo-Pacific. Japan has seized a Taiwanese fishing boat that was found trespassing near Yonaguni Island. Japanese authorities are holding the captain and crew of 5 along with the boat. Taiwan's fisheries agency is preparing a payment of about $20,000 to secure their release. The agency says the ship sailed beyond Taiwan's law enforcement area, and it will conduct its own investigation into what happened after the crew is returned to Taiwan. A diving group off Orchid Island has come across a special surprise, an endangered whale shark. These giants of the sea were once overfished, making their appearance these days a rare treat. John Van Trieste reports.
The members of a diving expedition off of eastern Taiwan on Saturday were expecting fantastic views, but nothing quite as spectacular as what they ended up seeing. At 14 meters below the surface, not far from Orchid Island, a rare lumbering beast of the deep approached. The whale shark is among the world's largest fish, but years of overfishing have greatly reduced their numbers, leading to them receiving legal protections in Taiwan and around the world. The appearance of such an unusual creature was a big surprise.
它本来是要游走的，看到气泡它又再游回来啊，它又在靠近我们这边。然后因为它可能本身比较喜欢玩气泡吧，所以它本身它又靠过来。
Some marine life researchers say it's not a total surprise the whale shark showed up in that area at this time of year, when the water warms up and food is plentiful.
它出现的地方的话，应该是这个浮游动物它出现的一个地方，所以就是说它可能是摄食的这样的一个行为，所以可能最近就会常出现，就是说看到鲸鲨这样。
But they say the chances of seeing a whale shark are still relatively slim. So for the 10 or so minutes the 4-meter whale shark played in the bubbles from the divers' oxygen tanks, the group's members had a privileged spectacle indeed. Fu Huahong and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Young people in China are escaping the pressures of urban working life to reconnect with themselves at so-called retirement homes in the countryside. It's a phenomenon that's gone viral in the country. Izzy Well reports.
In the lakeside town of China's Dali, these young people are taking it slow, enjoying the pace of life at their current residence, a self-styled youth retirement home. It's just one of the many that have popped up in rural China. Their founders cater to a growing niche, the increasing number of young people struggling from burnout and the pressure of busy jobs in the city.
公司的理念的话，并不是说让大家过退休的一个生活。我觉得可能我的理念的话是让大家就在他繁忙，然后就是一复一日的重复的生活当中，然后可能就是说有更多的一个精力去找到自己喜欢的东西去做。
In a similar hostel elsewhere in Dali, 29-year-old Wang Dong's enjoying his youth retirement. He checked in months ago, trading in his hospitality job for brewing tea and going on outings with friends.
对我的意义就是你在这个时间段经历了一些可以不用去用物质的社会、用物质的东西来衡量的东西，对我来说是很有意义的。
But it's not just about escaping long work hours and the city grind. China's urban youth unemployment post-pandemic is at its highest in years. And that's also playing a role in this viral trend.
刚毕业，工作也不是那么好找，就每天在家躺着，就来了这边， 生活更丰富一点，就是像是那种一成不变的生活有了解药。
While many are applauding this phenomenon as a symbol of youth resistance against unrealistic expectations and societal pressures, others are unhappy with younger generations choosing to lie flat, a viral Chinese term that describes a trend among young workers dropping out of what they see as an unrewarding rat race. But the owners of these so-called retirement homes say critics misunderstand the purpose of these spaces.
其实我是不太支持年轻人完全的躺平的。对于青年养老的时候，是我们每个人都要面对着社会的这个压力，我们是必须去面对着这样的生活，因为生活给我们的压力是无形的。这个压力崩到了一定的程度的时候，都会很难过。那在这个难过的期间怎么办？我们需要去外边去打开自己的眼界，去放松。所以说，青年养老不是持续性的，而是阶段性的。
It's a sentiment owners of these youth retirement homes are keen to stress. They're a temporary respite from a busy world, but not a permanent arrangement. These young retirees will be returning to the hustle and bustle of the city one day. But for now, they're relishing the rhythms of a quieter life. Scott Huang and Izzy Wells for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally, let's head to Osaka to see the drones being shown at Expo 2025. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.